Hello and welcome to this edition of Radio Free HPC. This is where we talk about supercomputing, high-performance computing, and other technology topics. I'm your Toastmaster, Rich Breckner, with my co-hosts, Dan Olds and Shahin Khan from OrionX, and Henry Newman from Seagate Government Solutions. Now let's get to the show. All right, we're back with Radio Free HPC. This is Rich Breckner, and we have Dan Olds and Shahin Khan today from OrionX. Henry is off somewhere doing classified stuff, I would guess, but he's not here.
I know, I miss Henry.
Yeah, we always miss Henry. But
yeah,
I thought, Dan, we could take advantage of something you mentioned, I think, in last week's show about this AI survey you guys did at OrionX, and maybe kind of go through some slides and highlights to find out more. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Is that okay with you, Shaheen?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, okay,
I would just say that this is an epic AI survey.
I do think, without risk of hyperbole, this is the biggest and longest and most comprehensive AI survey in the industry.
Well,
I mean, we went deep with this, and we also went wide. We had over 308 folks take this survey, and it was targeted at those with expertise and involvement with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning projects. So we're not just going out to every yahoo out there. We targeted pretty tight.
Well, great. Well, before we get into the details and hyperbole, Dan, what prompted this?
Well, first of all, it's a lack of information. We were asking ourselves questions, how do customers actually see this stuff? How are they making decisions? How many are actually have projects going? And we wanted to really answer those questions for ourselves and, of course, answer them for everybody else as well.
Okay. So a little self-interest and a little public service at the same time, sounds like.
A little bit.
Yeah. Definitely a need in the market. It's just such a emerging, important area, and I think that even folks who are practicing it would benefit from knowing how everybody else is approaching it and what sort of system configurations they're using. Are their workloads growing or shrinking? How much
what's
data?
The size of those projects?
Exactly. Yeah. What sort of interconnect are they using? How many GPUs per node? And that's just a system config. And then what are the frameworks that they're using? Are they aware of, the 24 frameworks that are out there, or just kind of the one that they happen to be using? What do they even call it? Is it AI? Is it machine learning? Is it deep learning? Do they see a difference? Do they not? It was things like that.
Wow. Okay.
And plus things like, what kind of projects are they doing? Are they trying to do visualization? Are they trying to, recognize images, sounds, text? What's going on? So we went very deep with this.
Well, good, guys, because I tell you, I just came from HPC User Forum in Milwaukee, and I would say a third of the presentations and the talks were about this very subject. So it's an increasing momentum around this, especially where it links to HPC these days. So,
yes.
Well, hey, I brought your slides up. Can we just do the elevator summary of this and kind of get a better picture?
Sure. I would say the one sentence summary of this entire survey is that it's still early days in AI.
Okay. Yeah.
And then running through the demographics just to show what we have, we've got a pretty wide range of industries, everything from manufacturing and engineering for businesses and consumers, all the way through government research, academic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to show this slide up there. Pretty good distribution of company size by number of employees. There are a lot of small companies that are out tackling this stuff.
Are they startups or a mix?
And I would say a mix.
Yeah.
I would say a mix, judging by their responses. But a lot of small companies that have a lot of data, that have big problems or big opportunities in AI.
Well, Dan, let me ask you about this. I'm on your slide number here. What says survey logistics, and it says confidence interval is 95%. Can you explain that to me?
The confidence interval and the margin of error are measures of how good your sample is.
Okay.
So that a confidence interval, remembering my old statistics, means that if you went out and resurveyed these people and other people, that the results would be within 95%.
Okay. So think of a survey as a blood sample.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, you're not going to drain the guy of all of its blood, their blood.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get a sample, and you can see that depending on the test they're doing, they tell you to not eat anything for the previous 12 hours or something. Mm-hmm. That's to try to make the sample more, the whole thing more homogeneous, so that the sample that they get is representative. Mm-hmm. So it really comes down to how representative the sample is of the total population.
Yes.
So it's a function of the total population. If your total population is 10, right, and you survey 9, well then that's one thing. If the total population is 2 billion and you survey 9, that's something else. And then it's also a question of the homogeneity of the whole thing. So if the total population is pretty homogeneous, you can sample 1 and you get the data. If it's really fragmented and it's all over the map, then you kind of need a little bit more. So the statisticians have done what they do, which is a lot of complex formulas, and they tell you to plug in this and to plug in that, and they give you these two numbers. And generally, you want to be above 93%, and that sort of.
Oh, and we've got a margin of error less than 6%, which means that the average error on any question could be plus or minus 6%, but no more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing is, what are you really trying to glean from the data? If you're trying to, ascertain whether somebody's got some, bad disease or something, then you want to be a lot more rigorous about those things. But if you're trying to get the pulse of the market, 95%, and what we have is really more than fine. It's quite fine.
Okay. Well, here I'm on slide 4. Then, little kind of double click on who these folks were.
Yeah. We have a pretty good representation from different industries, also different company sizes. And clicking to the next slide, which I think is important, in the surveys that we do, a lot of surveys ask for job titles, right?
Yeah.
And a VP in a bank, where everybody's a VP, is much different than a VP in an engineering company, for example. So what we're asking and what we do is ask what their function is and what their role in the organization is. Like, do they have detailed knowledge on platforms and applications? Do they make decisions on software apps? Do they make decisions on platforms? Are they key recommenders? And I really like the way this came out, is that virtually everybody that we have, more than 80% are more than just users, right around 80%. And even the users have, when you come to a topic like AI, they definitely have a sway in the decision making.
So we have questions like, I have detailed knowledge on platforms, applications in our organization.
Yeah.
I'm a key recommender for application software. Or, I make platform decisions. So then that gives you a good sampling of what they actually do for the organization that would be relevant to their opinion, and to, it's a reflection of what the organization is going to do.
Let's hit the next slide, slide 6.
Okay.
This tells you a lot, in that over 40% of the survey respondents are substantially or full-time involved with AI, ML, or DL.
Okay.
And when you add that with the partially involved, that's over 50%.
Okay. So they're getting their hands dirty, it sounds like, with
they
this
are.
Stuff.
And that's exactly the kind of people we wanted to get to.
Okay, cool.
And what's interesting on the slide to the right, their understanding, they're ranking themselves in terms of their understanding. This is what really tells you that we're in the early days, in that about 7% give themselves a 5, which means they really understand, or they think they really understand what's going on in AI and then you look at the rest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
More than I'm going to say about more than 60% say that they're a 3 or less.
Okay.
Which is what tells us how early this is.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, versus...
Or AI folks just aren't very confident people.
Well,
well,
stunning lack of confidence.
It is a frontier, and there's lots going on, but we don't have HAL yet, right, or anything close.
No.
So it makes
no,
sense.
That's true.
I wonder if you did that same kind of survey with quantum computing, what kind of number you see, like 2% claim to even understand anything about it, but they're already making decisions, or something to that.
Yeah, no kidding. some significantly low number.
All right, cool. Well, maybe we should get into what you guys found, without giving away the story here. But what did you learn from these questions?
Well, we've got about 35 slides, each of which with 3 or 4 actual tables. So there's no way we can go through all of it. But let's pick a sampling that is interesting and do that.
Okay.
You want to do the taxonomy then?
Well, I want to take a look at what would be slide 12 in the deck you guys have. It'll be the number will be changed in the deck that we put online. Take a look at professional services spending.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's a fairly significant number. But then the next slide, which is the growth in professional services spending, that's going up faster than any of the other growth, including growth on hardware, on software, on licenses and fees, and that sort of thing. This is something else that's telling us that there's not a big knowledge base out there.
Yeah, our walkaway is that there's a big skill shortage, of course it is, and that it is expected to continue, and that is benefiting professional services organizations because companies who do want to do AI are compelled to bring in expertise from outside because they're not able to staff up themselves, and sometimes they wonder whether they should staff up themselves and just, because it's too early and they might not know what it is that they might need. But we are seeing that in a number of different interactions and studies and conversations that we've had, that really is a major problem.
Yes. And if you look at slide 15, you'll see that the vast majority of customers are going to be ramping up their spending on education and training and staff compensation and recruitment.
Yeah, in fact, when you look at the data, the largest spending growth that we see
is it? Yeah, I think it's close
to address skill shortage. Now, this is spending growth, not just spending dollars, because obviously, to get gear to run the stuff, whether you do it on premises or in the cloud, is a pretty substantial part. But it seems like at this point, the skill shortage is the one that is that on the front windshield.
Yeah.
Yes. Now let's go to slide 17 in the deck you guys have. Okay. Why are people doing AI?
Why? Oh.
Why? How come? Why? And who's driving it? And that first chart is kind of interesting and a little bit unexpected, at least for me. It's engineering by a little over 30% that's driving AI for customers. Second is customer service, maintenance, that sort of thing, and then marketing and advertising. I would have expected marketing, advertising, and sales to be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But this indicates that they're trying to build AI into their products and their services.
Yes.
And that means it is the engineering organization that is driving it. And of course, even if you're a marketeer, you're going to say, well, I want this feature and I want that feature and I want this kind of an insight and I want that kind of, customer demographics. Can you guys build that into a product? So even when the marketing guys want it, it kind of gets relayed into engineering. But that's really a big piece. Yeah.
Wow.
And looking at the benefits they expect to receive, over 40%, closing in on 50%, said it's business innovation and competitive advantage. So they're in this for the right reasons. And then number 2 is cost reduction.
Oh.
And that's about 27%.
So is that, are they talking about automation and getting rid of the need of human bodies when they say that?
Yeah, it's
two
things. So. It's two things. One is predictive maintenance, and just kind of streamlining the maintenance workflow, and that can be a lot of cost cutting right there. Mm-hmm. They don't have to do things twice. Yeah. They don't have to, ship the wrong item, et cetera, et cetera. And the other one is indeed automating people out of what was happening before, to get more consistency, to get more 24/7 coverage, et cetera.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of organizations, about 44% are using special teams to do AI in order to drive it through their organization more quickly, and streamline the process.
Yeah, because
Rich, you remember back in the .com days, back in late 90s, when all these companies suddenly realized that they have to .com themselves, and and we were there with Sun Microsystems to serve them for that. Many of them realized that in order to do this effectively, they need to form a tiger team, a special organization on the side that was kind of immune from the checks and balances of the IT organization, and they could just move fast and get it done.
Yeah.
So every time a really big trend comes in, we have an interest in finding out whether it's part of IT proper or is it something on the side that is shielded. Now the CIO and the and the management are still exposed to it and they approve it, but they kind of want to give it some autonomy so it can move fast.
Yeah.
And AI is very much in that category, so it is interesting to see that something like 45% are in fact handling AI budget and decision making through special teams, and the other like 57% or so are doing it as part of the AI. Now the guys who are doing it as part of AI clearly think that this is here to stay, and they might as well learn how to adjust their AI processes to do this right.
Yeah. Now, were these respondents, were they sharing what companies they're from? Because I can certainly see they might not want their competitors to know they've got this giant tiger team working on this over at GM, and the Chrysler guys are free to know about that, right?
Yeah, we do not disclose that.
Okay, gotcha.
So the industry level is really the level of abstraction. And if you look at what industries actually participated, it's a pretty nice sampling of anywhere from government, defense and research, academic, all the way to like manufacturing, engineering, financial services, transportation, energy, healthcare, life sciences, etc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. What else do we want to go through on this, Shahin? By the way, cloud is looking pretty strong for these guys.
In what way? What do you mean?
In terms of doing training, testing, and production. That's slide 19.
Oh, okay. Got that.
So if they have a preference where training is run, testing is run, and production is run. I mean, there's still the biggest slug is on premises, except for in training. That's where public clouds are kind of are pulling ahead.
Slide 24 is also good.
Yeah.
They're all good. They're all good. They're all golden.
I stand corrected.
Yes.
Actually, there really is a lot of very good data, if I may say so ourselves, right? So we asked about data attributes. We asked, is your data structured or unstructured? And believe it or not, structured data edges out unstructured data.
Yeah.
We got 57% structured and 48% unstructured. We asked, where is the source of your data?
And by the way, for people looking at that and going, hey, that adds up to more than 100, there were people that there was also a selection that allowed them to say both.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
So we're just showing the the one versus the other, but they could say both.
Right.
And that's why it's more than 100.
Okay.
Now, you have to remember that data has its own flow and cycle. Data, almost by definition, starts unstructured, and it becomes more and more structured as it goes through the Python. So this basically says at what point in that flow are they eligible to use it for AI.
Yeah.
Right? So do you is unstructured data good enough to push through AI, or do you need to treat it and structure it before you do AI? Now, structured data is almost always better than unstructured because you already have done a bunch of intelligence added to it. Mm-hmm. But if it's data that you really need now and you can't wait for all of that to happen, then you just want to do it in a more real-time way. The other thing we asked them was, what is the data type? Is it text? Is it numbers? Is it images, audio, or video, film? And the ranking was almost exactly in that order.
Yeah.
So basically, text and numbers continue to dominate.
By a lot.
By a lot, yeah. I mean,
and the thing is that you hear so much about image detection and audio detection. That's not where the real customers are using this.
Not right now, anyway. Right?
Not right now, anyway, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, part of that is because image manipulation and audio manipulation, video manipulation, which is kind of image plus audio plus streaming over time, right? Mm-hmm. So the data becomes more and more complex as you add another dimension to it. Mm-hmm. And how and what are the data structures and how you can actually manipulate that data. So as a data type becomes more complex, there's kind of less you can do with it right now in a very efficient, fast manner. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to just get your feet wet and understand what's really going on and where the use cases are, it ends up being a lot of just text and numbers. What is the temperature from the sensor that's coming from the field? How many times did the customer turn on the air conditioner over the past week? What is the thermostat set, right? Those are all just kind of numbers and text, and they're more than good enough to generate a lot of good insight. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
So then the other thing we asked was, where's the source of your data?
Oh.
Is it business data? Is it from your ERP system or similar? Okay. And there's something like, over 60%, close to 70% of people said yes, that is one source of data for them. Uh-huh. The biggest one is log data, just kind of instrumentation of business processes and other various things. That's about 70%. Yeah. Sensors, IoT data is about just over 60% again. Mm-hmm. And then, very surprisingly, third-party, other data that they acquire and they just kind of get from outside of their organization is pushing 40%.
So are they scraping that from the internet, or they're buying?
It's a couple of categories. Yeah. One is that it's purchased data.
Yep.
It is publicly available data that you just tap into. Mm-hmm. And then it is what I call kind of reduced data, is that you get the public data, but it becomes derived, derivative product.
Okay.
All of this really is indicating the emergence of a data supply chain.
Yeah.
So, remember those words. Data supply chain is something I think we're going to hear a lot about as time goes by.
It's a brand new term to me.
A brand new term.
Cool.
I don't think. I think people have independently come up with the same wording.
Slick.
Yeah. But this is just kind of going over the thumbnail of everything that's in here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, are there some big takeaways that you can share with somebody that wants to dive down deeper? How would you whet their appetite for this, Dan?
I would say that it's early, but it's time to move.
Time to move. Okay.
Time to move. There's enough of an ecosystem out there that we've found, and the pioneers are already well into this. Yeah. So it's time for the rest of the wagon trains to move. And the other thing that this really points out to me for vendors that are approaching this market, customers need their help.
Mm.
Right.
And with the right things.
Yeah. And to put in a plug for the survey itself, right now, because of the dearth of information, there are surveys out there, but I don't think any of the surveys has gone and looked at the questions that. Now, the way we kind of approached this was that, if I were in-house at a big company, what data would I need to know? Mm-hmm. Right. So we asked a lot of questions that other surveys really haven't asked, and you saw the whole range of questions that we asked. But the reason we did that is because our view was that if we were trying to do budgeting, if we were trying to just get a pulse of the market, what technology choices should we make? What should the decision-making criteria be? So we asked them that. He said, what parameters are important for you when you're trying to buy a system? Is open source important to you? Is, look and feel more important than, robustness? And of course, they're all important, but to kind of put them in perspective and prioritize is important.
Yeah.
We looked at vendor selection criteria, just with, as I was saying. So where we see people who get access to this data use it is that they use it to help set strategy. It can help them guide investments. It certainly can validate assumptions. It can sort of identify your existing strengths. Mm-hmm. And if you have an offering, or what are the opportunities or areas of concern. And it's just kind of really important customer perspective to help you plan and position your future offerings and products.
Well, that's pretty cool, considering, I think it was this week that Vladimir Putin came out and said that he who rules AI will rule the planet. So
did he?
He sure did. So he's got people's attention, and this kind of survey with this depth of information surely looks valuable right now, guys. So congratulations.
So maybe he'll buy a copy.
Yeah. Well, I'm of course going to put a link on how to get more information on this, but what is the call to action here?
The call to action is go to orionx.net/AI. Mm-hmm. Take a look at what we have. If this is something that's of interest to you, reach out to us. There's a contact sheet right on the website, or just contact us at either Dan or myself or anybody else at Orion.
Yeah, and we've gone through probably 10 or 12 data points. There's 140 separate data points in this.
And
right.
Yeah. And if I call that number, will a real person answer, or will it be a Siri or somebody like that?
I'm not even sure if we have a real phone number in there. But if there is one, a real person will be answering.
Okay. Fair enough, guys. Well, hey.
But we have an email alias that goes to a bunch of us, so somebody usually responds within an hour.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, good job, guys. I'm kind of intrigued now, and I want to see some more on this. And I've got the full deck, but you'll have to engage to see some more here out there, folks. And
well, we can do another session if you see some data that is interesting. Mm-hmm. Certainly the data needs to get out there, and we'd like people to use it.
Yes, absolutely,
definitely.
Well, on that somewhat artificially intelligent note, let's close out this edition of Radio Free HPC, and we will see and hear you all next time.
That's it for this edition of Radio Free HPC. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check back often for new episodes. Also, check out our website for more content, links, and a place for you to let us know what you think about the show. We're at radiofreehpc.com. Thanks again. We'll be back with another exciting episode real soon.